Good morning, Friday. It is the second day of May. My name is Gretchen Aw, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. Senators sound alarm. 18 million high school graduates considered functionally illiterate by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Education groups urge teachers to prioritize reading skills before graduation. We'll discuss this issue further later in the program. President Bongbong Marcos stresses caution on wage hike calls, citing possible economic impact. He notes regional wage boards are continuously reviewing pay levels nationwide. Vice President Sara Duterte will attend the preliminary investigation into the NBI's complaint over her threats against the First Family. The hearings are set for May 9 and 16. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, tragedy struck at the SCTEX Toll Plaza in Tarlac on May 1 when a multi-vehicle collision left 10 people dead and 20 others injured. Here's the report.
10 people were confirmed dead and more than 20 others were injured in a multi-vehicle collision at the SCTEX Toll Plaza in Tarlac on May 1. The pileup involved a Solid North passenger bus, a van, 2 SUVs, and a container truck. Initial investigation revealed that the crash happened when the bus slammed into a stationary SUV, which was waiting at the toll gate along with several other vehicles. The impact triggered a chain reaction, causing the SUV to crash into the vehicles ahead.
Pagising ko na lang, wala. Sobrang lakas na ng impact. Kasi simula nung pagsakay ko pa lang sa Dao Bus Stop Terminal, nakatulog na kagad ako. Tapos pagising ko, nangyari na kagad yung insidente. Parang ano rin po kasi dito sa mukha ko. Parang ang tawag doon, nabugbog. Pagkagising ko po, gulo-gulo na lahat ng upuan sa loob ng bus.
Authorities said the bus driver fell asleep behind the wheel. The injured were rushed to the Tarlac Provincial Hospital for treatment.
Karamihan po doon na mga injured po rito, hindi pa po kilala yung karamihan. Kasi wala pong mga ibang pagkakakilanlan. So kasalukuyan pa pong iniimbestigahan pa po ng ating mga investigador yung kanilang mga pagkakakilanlan. So ito po, sana po ngayon is sa mga manonood ninyo is makarating sa kanila na nasa Tarlac Provincial Hospital pa po yung karamihan na unidentified pa po.
Among those hospitalized were the bus driver and conductor, who are now in the custody of the Tarlac City Police. In response to the incident, Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon has directed the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board to suspend Solid North's operations immediately. They will conduct a thorough investigation and require the bus company to undergo mandatory safety checks and other audits.
Vice President Sara Duterte will appear in the preliminary investigation into the NBI's complaint over her threats against the First Family. The Vice President made this assurance at the sidelines of a campaign rally in Cagayan de Oro Wednesday night. Duterte is facing charges of inciting to sedition and grave threats filed by the NBI last February. The case stems from the VP's virtual press conference in November of 2024, where Duterte said she had hired an assassin to kill President Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and Speaker Martin Romualdez if she herself got assassinated. The preliminary investigation is slated for May 9 and 16.
Yes, nagkausap na kami ng aking abogado with regard to sa counter affidavit na tinatapos na lang namin. At mag-appear ako dahil kailangan ko mag-oath.
The Commission on Elections said only the Department of Agriculture is authorized to sell rice at 20 pesos a kilo during the election period, as it has already been granted exemption from the spending ban. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia stressed that if local government units participate in the rice distribution, it would be considered a form of assistance or ayuda, which would require a separate exemption from the poll body. To avoid potential violations of election rules, the poll body asked the DA to temporarily suspend the rice rollout until after the May 12 elections. Garcia also reminded the public that all forms of aid are banned starting 10 days before Election Day, except for medical and burial assistance.
Pag ang LGU nakihati at nagbigay ng kanyang participation, yan po ay ayuda. And therefore, dahil ayuda yan, kinakailangang humingi ng exemption mula sa Commission on Election. Pwede naman po ipagpaliban muna hanggang Mayo 13. Sa May 13, hindi na po kailangan ng exemption ng COMELEC. pwede na pong i-distribute yan kahit na 19 pesos at hindi 20 pesos.
Meanwhile, a low-pressure area is bringing moderate to heavy rains in Visayas and Mindanao. To know more about the LPA and the weather situation this weekend, we have Pag-asa weather forecaster John Manalo on the line. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters, John. Ano ang aasahan natin na panahon ngayong araw na ito ng Friday na marami ng nag-long weekend at para naman sa darating na weekend?
Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Gretchen, sa opportunity na ito. At yung LPA po kasi no, nag-exist pa rin dito sa 440 kilometer ng east of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. Embedded po siya sa ITCZ. So sa mga taga Mindanao po ay na-advise natin sila na mag-ingat dahil patuloy po yung mga cloudiness na nakikita natin at yung mga pag-ulan at thunderstorms ay evident po dyan, lalo na po dito sa Eastern Visayas, Central Visayas, Northern Mindanao, Caraga, Davao Region, Catanduanes, Albay, Sorsogon at Masbate. Dahil po dyan, yung mga lugar po na may mga nabahain at yung mga landslide prone areas ay pinag-iingat po natin. ITCZ naman po yung maaari magdala ng kaulapan at mga pag-ulan dito sa natitirang bahagi ng Visayas at Mindanao. So yung weekend po nitong sa mga taga Visayas at Mindanao at lalo na yung mga binanggit ko po kanina na apektado ng LPA ay medyo maulan po talaga yung weekend nila. Sa susunod na linggo naman po ay magiging mas better. Although may nakikita pa tayo na maaaring mamuo na low pressure area pero maliit pa po yung chance nito at yung mga susunod na araw siguro Monday, Tuesday ay baka yung Palawan na po yung nakikita natin na magkakaroon ng kaulapan. Dito po sa Metro Manila, sa natitirang bahagi ng Luzon, ay easterlies pa rin yung nakaka-apekto sa atin. Dito po yung magdadala ng maaliwalas na kalangitan at mainit po lalo na sa umaga at tanghali pero may chances pa rin ng mga isolated rain showers or thunderstorms tulad ng mga na-experience natin dito sa Quezon City ng mga nakaraang araw. At I think that would summarize our weather
Isolated
report.
rain shower lang pala yung kahapon. Kasi
Yes po.
bigla na lang bumuhos yung ulan. Nakakagulat nga eh.
Opo, at kung magkakaroon man po ng thunderstorms dito sa Metro Manila, hindi naman po ito magtatagal. So, mag-dissipate din siya eventually.
Do you see this low pressure area strengthening and turning into a tropical depression or a typhoon?
For the next 24 hours, we are closely monitoring its propagation, but it's less likely to develop. But of course, we are not disintegrating or we're not removing the chance of it to develop to tropical depression. But within 24 hours, it's less likely to develop, and I think we would like to emphasize more the rainfall that will be most likely experienced by our fellow taga Mindanao na mga kababayan natin.
Okay. John, dahil meron tayong pag-ulan, wala na rin ba tayo sa danger level pagdating naman sa heat index?
Well, actually, may mga danger level pa rin tayo na nakataas, lalo na sa Luzon. Pero sa Mindanao po, no, konti na lang. Specifically, Butuan City na lang sa Agusan del Norte, yung ating nakikita na nasa danger level sa Mindanao. At yung mga susunod na ay nasa Luzon na. And meron po tayo sa Bicol Region, sa Catanduanes. Yun na po yung pinakamababa. And then the rest ay sa Calabarzon, Central Luzon. And dito naman sa Metro Manila, ay nasa 41. So 1 degree short siya para maging danger. But still, 41 degrees Celsius of heat indexes can still trigger yung mga heat ramps, yeah.
Medyo makakahinga ang ating kalupaan pero we're still not out of the woods. Sana rin hindi lumakas yung ulan over the weekend as people enjoy the long break. In the meantime, maraming salamat for giving us the situation on the weather. We have Pag-asa weather forecaster John Manalo. Don't go away. Morning Matters will be right back after this short break. Good morning. You're watching Morning Matters here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos emphasized the need for careful consideration of the calls for a wage increase. Now, speaking at the 123rd Labor Day celebration at the SMX Convention Center in Pasay City, he highlighted the potential impact of the proposal on the Philippine economy. He also pointed out that the regional tripartite wages and productivity boards are continuously reviewing wage levels across various regions. Since June of last year, 16 regions have already implemented wage hikes and 28 wage orders have been approved.
Masarap pakinggan ang matatamis na mga pangako. Ngunit ang mga ito ay may epekto sa paglago ng negosyo, trabaho at ekonomiya. We hear the call of our workers for better wages and assure you that your concerns are being addressed.
Now, to give us context on these issues, we have Department of Labor and Employment Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma joining us this morning. Magandang umaga. Thank you so much for your time, Secretary.
Pleasant good morning to Gretchen, and good morning to all your supporters and televiewers.
Secretary, bago tayo magpunta dun sa wage hike, unang-una, kamustahin ko lang po yung Labor Day job fairs kahapon sa SMX. Gaano karami po ang nagkaroon ng trabaho?
Gretchen, yung job fair kahapon po ay isinagawa nationwide at bilang mga ilang informasyon, mahigit na 2,500 employers ang nagsilahok. Sa bahagi po naman dito sa NCR, mahigit na 100 employers at humigit kumulang umabot po ng 250,000 ang job openings na aloka kahapon both local and overseas. At ang isang magandang siguro bahagi nung job fair kahapon ay meron pong sa huling ulat sa akin kahapon as of 5 p.m. kahapon Gretchen, ay meron po tayong 4,200 na hired on the spot. Ang ibig sabihin ay sila ay umuwi buhat sa pakikilahok sa nasabing mga job fair na may magandang balita sa kanilang pamilya na sila ay mayroon ng trabaho.
Okay, gaano naman po kadami yung yung unemployment rate po natin sa ngayon, para lang ma-compare po natin dito nga po sa mga openings at ano po yung immediate solution na nakikita po natin na gusto nating lutasin with these job fairs.
Gretchen, yung pinakahuling labor force survey ng ating PSA, yung unemployment ay 3.8% at humigit kumulang yan na mga 1.9 million na mga kababayan natin ang walang hanap buhay. Subalit yung dun sa pangalawang bahagi ng iyong katanungan, patuloy po yung aming ginagawa na job facilitation efforts at laging bahagi namin po dyan yung mga local government units kung saan meron silang public employment service offices. Pangalawa, Gretchen, meron din pong pagpapatuloy dun sa upskilling at retooling ng ating mga manggagawa upang makatugon sila dun sa requirements ng mga existing businesses as well as those business na gusto pong mag-invest at maglagak ng puhunan sa ating bansa.
Ito pong 4,200 hired on the spot, saan po pinakamarami ang na-hire na industriya? Iba-ibang industriya, pero sa manufacturing, malaki po yung bahagi ay mga production workers. Meron din po tayo sa service, may kinalaman po sa yung mga kahera at yung din pong mga customer assistant. Marami din po ang na-hire. At ito po ay galing, ang kabuuan po nito ay pinagsama-samang report ng ating mga regional offices. Services continue to be part of yung malaking isang sektor na malaki po ang naiambag sa karagdagang mga hanap buhay sa ating pong mga kababayan. Okay. Ano po nakikita po ninyo na pagkakataon na mga bagong klaseng trabaho na pwedeng applyan ng ating mga kababayan?
Itong meron tayo kasing rapid technological advancement, as you are aware, Gretchen. No? So sa IT and BPO, meron po kaming mahigpit na koordinasyon, kolaborasyon sa kanilang organisasyon dahil marami po ang mga lumulutang na bagong pangangailangan at mga employers, lalo na po sa IT and BP management sector. Kasama rin po yung ibang mga kumpanya na nangangailangan po ng kaalaman, dulot po ng makabagong teknolohiya. At kasama rin diyan na Gretchen, yung pong may kinalaman sa power and renewable energy sector. Kasi talaga pong maraming mga nagpahayag na mga prospective investors ang kanila pong desisyon bilang pagtugon doon sa kanilang commitment sa mga pagbisita ng ating Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. doon sa kanyang mga nakaraang foreign trips, na ito po ay gumugulong na ang proseso at inaasahan natin itong taon na ito hanggang sa 2026 tatagos, meron pong tinatayang humigit kumulang karagdagang 300,000 na trabaho.
Ano po ang educational requirement naman po nitong mga bagong sektor? Dahil nga po dun sa lumabas na bagong study ng PSA na sinasabi na marami sa mga junior high school or 18 million junior and senior high school graduates are functionally illiterate. I mean, how does that affect the job applications? Meron po bang epekto yun? At pangalawa, yun nga po, ano yung karaniwan na educational attainment na hinahanap?
Definitely, Gretchen, mayroon yung epekto o mayroon yung impact doon po sa ating mga job seekers. Kaya nga po, nung nakaraang taon, nagkaroon po ng tinatawag natin na Joint Memorandum Circular sa pagitan po ng DepEd at ng TESDA. Bahagi po ang DOLE kung saan yung pong may kinalaman sa pag-i-embed o pagpapaloob dun sa senior high school curricula, nung pong mga kurso o mga subject na makakatulong po na pagka-graduate po nila ay dapat employable na po kagad ang ating pong mga graduates. No? Tuloy-tuloy po yun at tinitignan, kung matatandaan din natin, bahagi po nung ikangay napulot o nakuhang impormasyon yung sa nabanggit nyo na resulta ng survey, meron pong ginagawa ngayon na pag-aaral din at meron na rin nalalapit na paglulunsad ng kanilang rekomendasyon. Ito pong EDCOM 2 kasi mahalaga po talaga na atin pong mga manggagawa, lalo na po yung mga bagong papasok sa ating labor market, ay meron pong sapat na kasanayan.
Sa ngayon po ba, pumapasa na ba po yung mga junior and senior high school graduates natin? O talagang kinakailangan may assistance for training ng TESDA at DOLE? So nakikita po ninyo na realidad po sa ground?
Sa ground, actually, bahagi po ng mga na-hire on the spot, yung pong ilang mga graduates ng senior high school. At yun naman pong hindi nagkakapalad, yun po ay sinasalo o ginagabayan ng TESDA pagdadagdag po ng ating pagdadagdag po ng mga kasanayan o kaalaman nang sa ganun talaga maging competitive sila at masasabi po natin na work ready, handa na po silang humarap dito po sa larangan ng paggawa. Yung nakikita natin pong mga direksyon ng mga palakin na dapat talagang mailatag, ayun talagang gawin natin po sila na hindi lamang po siguro may kaalaman yung tinatawag na hard skill. Pati po yung soft skills kasi, Gretchen, hinahanap ngayon how you interact, anong klaseng diskarte, kailangan may discernment ka para makatulong po kayo sa magandang pagpapalakad o operasyon ng mga kumpanya na pwedeng inyong pinapasukan.
Secretary, meron din po ba tayong pagkakataong nakikita dahil dito po sa nangyayaring trade war sa buong mundo, yung meron tayong 17% tariff, pero nakasuspend pa yan sa ngayon. Pero meron bang mga nag-express na ng interest na dito sila magtayo ng kanilang pabrika at nakikitaan natin na pwedeng puntahan sakasakali nga matuloy itong mga taripa na ito?
Gretchen, early on, bago pa itong ganitong klaseng kaganapan, meron na po talagang mga nagpapahayag ng interest na maglarak. Yung nabanggit ko po kanina na higit kumulang mga 300,000 jobs na pwedeng malika dahil po dun sa implementasyon na ng mga commitment na maglalagak ng puhunan dito. Bahagi po yun ng paghahanda natin dahil tayo po ay nasa isang international community na kung saan atin pong minomonitor ang mga kaganapan. At ang isa po siguro malaking masasabi natin na advantage sa bahagi po natin Una, bukod po sa bata ang ating workforce, meron po tayong nakabalangkas na Philippine Development Plan for 2023-2038. At yan naman po ay sinusugan din sa bahagi po ng DOLE ng ating pong tinatawag na Labor and Employment Plan. At sa TESDA po, meron tayong National Technical Education and Skill Development Plan for 2023-2038. At sa darating po na Lunes, ilulunsad po, ilalaunch po yung trabaho para sa bayan plan na ito po naman ang direktiba o nakapaloob dun sa trabaho para sa bayan act na ang layunin maging competitive talaga ang ating workforce at makatulong po na ma-incentivize ang ating mga micro, small, and medium enterprises para magtuloy-tuloy po ang pagkakaroon ng mas maraming hanap buhay o trabaho para sa manggagawang Pilipino.
Okay. Secretary, puntahan po natin itong wage hike. No? Ang sabi po ng Pangulo kahapon na kung para sa kanya, up to the regional wage boards yung pagdedesisyon. Meron po tayong 2 bill na nasa Kongreso at Senado. Yung sa Senate Bill 2434 ay 100 pesos yung daily wage na kanilang nakikita at sa House Bill naman sa second reading pa lang 11376. Yung pahayag po ng Pangulo, does it mean to say mahihirapan itong mga bill na ito na makapasa at ano ang direksyon ng Pangulo pagdating dito sa wage hike?
Gretchen, sa aking sariling pananaw, hindi naman kumbaga sa yung sinasabi ay mahirap na mahirap kasi ang pagpapasa po ng batas ay poder o mandato ng ating Kongreso. At ang tungkulin lang po namin sa bahagi po ng executive ay may kinalaman sa pagkakaloob o pagbibigay ng mga technical inputs kasi mga resource persons po kami. At kung ang amin pong ikangay pinapaabot na posisyon o kaya naman ay mga inputs ay tatanggapin o hindi tatanggapin, nasa ating pong Kongreso. Naipasa na po yan sa Senado, yung kanilang panukala, yung nabanggit mo nga na 100 peso across the board. Meron naman po nga sa House of Representatives, 200 pesos across the board. Kung yan po ay dadating sa punto na naipasa nilang pareho at dadating sa ating Pangulo, pag-aaralan din po ng Pangulo dahil ang mga layo pong pananaw na tinitignan paano ito hindi makakapinsala sa patuloy na paglago ng ating ekonomiya, makalikha ng mas maraming employment. Nang sa ganon, meron pong option talaga ang ating mga manggagawa at hindi ito maka-epekto ng malaki sa ating pong inflation rate, ganon din sa ating pong tinatawag na gross domestic product. Mahirap po ang isang pagbabalanse na ginagawa. At ang tinutukoy naman po ng ating Pangulo, may kinalaman sa kanyang pahayag kahapon, may kinalaman po sa minimum wage. At ang minimum wage naman po, yan po ang mandatong ipinagkaloob ng Kongreso na isaalang-alang ng ating iba-ibang regional tripartite legislative boards. Sila po ang lumikha nito dahil nung ito po ay likhain noong 1990. Bahagi na po ako ng Department of Labor and Employment at that time. Kaya po ito napagpasyahan noon upang ma-depoliticize, no? Maiiwas po sa mga political na intervention ang pagsasaalang-alang anumang adjustment. Ang kanya lamang pong tinutukoy ay minimum wage, yung pong entry level, para matiyak lamang na ating mga manggagawa hindi babayaran ng sweldo na mababa doon sa minimum wage. Meron pa pong 2 kaparaanan upang makakuha ng sweldo over and above the minimum wage. Una, yung bipartite, usapan ng employer at sa kanyang mga manggagawa. Ikalawa, kung tayo po ay mayroong union at ito po ay dinadaan sa collective bargaining negotiation, CBA. Kaya yan po ang pangunahin na objective o kaya naman ay kadahilanan bakit mayroong pagkilala din ng ating pamahalaan doon sa karapatan na mag-organisa. Nang sa ganon, makapag-bargain sila sa kanilang employer at tignan ang kakayahan mismo ng kanilang sariling employer. Kasi kung minsan na hindi naman pwedeng fits all ang isang solusyon, dapat tignan din natin na bukod sa pangangailangan ng mga manggagawa at ng kanilang pamilya, tignan din natin ang kakayahan at kapasidad ng mga employers. Nang sa ganon, magpatuloy po ang hanap buhay. Kasi sa bahagi po ng Department of Labor and Employment, kaya nga po masugid kami at masigasig dito sa mga job fair. Ang amin pong nakikita, ang pangunahin na dapat bigay natin na karapatan at obligasyon para sa mga manggagawa ay magkaroon po ng trabaho. Isang trabaho na disente at tuloy-tuloy, nang sa gano'n ay hindi na po rin sila laging umaasa sa ayuda o ikakay pagbibigay ng tulong sa kanila at sila ay maging marespeto po ang dignidad ng ating mga manggagawa.
Okay, sabi po ng Ibon Foundation kasi 1,200 yung nararapat na minimum wage dito sa NCR. Sana maaral po natin mabuti at makausap po natin lahat ng stakeholders. Lalo na magsisimula na po ngayong Mayo yung inyong pag-aaral tungkol dito sa minimum wage. But in the meantime, I'll let you go. I know you have another interview to get to. Thank you so much for joining us this morning at sa komprehensibong pagpapaliwanag. That was Department of Labor and Employment Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma. Stay tuned. Morning Matters. We'll be right back right after a short break. I'm Gretchen Hall, and this is Morning Matters. Senators are alarmed as 18 million high school graduates cannot understand what they are reading, defined by the Philippine Statistics Authority as, quote, functionally illiterate. Groups call on teachers to ensure that students won't graduate without proper reading skills. Here is the report.
Patungo sa sambayanan sa paglikha bagong Pilipinas.
Already a senior high school graduate, 20-year-old Bong is still struggling to read the story from News 5 Digital. The story, Labor Day messages from the President and Vice President. Bong admits English is still difficult for him. There are times when he speaks words different from what is written in the text. Sa mga pangunahing detalye, nakakasagot naman siya. Pero kapag ang tanong ay bakit o paano, siya'y nabablanko.
Sino yung dalawang nagsalita?
Ferdinand Marcos Jr. tapos Sara Duterte po.
Bakit sila nabigay ng mensaheng gano'n?
Para maano rin po yung mga ibang tao po. Parang hindi ko masabi.
Bong is taking side jobs in construction and at an eatery as a dishwasher to earn a living.
Po, nakikisabay lang po sa kaklase ko para malibre lang po sa pamasahe. Pag wala po, hindi po ako makakapasok.
Bong still has spending requirements in school, so he would join the graduation ceremony in June. But he would still be able to get his diploma once all pending tasks are completed. Bong adds to over 90 million high school graduates struggling to read, write, compute, and comprehend, or what the Philippine Statistics Authority defines as functionally illiterate. This means 1 out of 5 graduates cannot comprehend even a simple text, raising alarm bells among senators.
That should not happen. DepEd should already be proactive in making sure that no one will graduate not being functional literate. That's quite concerning.
The Department of Education said it is moving to address the issue. According to DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara, the department will strengthen interventions such as remedial and literacy programs. Lessons will be taught in a deeper sense so students can be mindful on the information that they receive. Gatchalian says teachers must ensure no student will graduate without learning how to read.
Siguraduhin na marunong sila magbasa bago gumraduate at intensify, lalong palakasin yung tinatawag natin foundational skills, yung magbasa at magbilang.
But one teacher and media literacy advocate asked,
paano siya matututo magbasa kung yung nagturo sa kanya, hindi rin naman marunong ng maayos na pagbabasa? Because reading is not just reading. That's a role, right? And make sure na hindi lang sila pumasa, pero talagang natuto sila.
Other groups are calling for the return of the old curriculum to bring back the no read, no pass policy. As for Bong, he has no plans to pursue college anymore.
Mag-a-apply lang rin po ng trabaho para makatulong rin po sa magulang.
And joining us to discuss more about functional illiteracy and the steps to address this issue is Hannibal Camua, Executive Director of the Philippine Business for Education. Good morning, Sir Hannibal.
Good morning, Ma'am Gretchen, and good morning to all the viewers of Morning Matters.
18 million high school graduates considered to be functionally illiterate. Unang-una muna, no, ano ang ibig sabihin ng functional illiteracy?
Well, as defined by the PSA, no, itong functional illiteracy, ibig sabihin nito yung mga ating mga learners or those who have been surveyed ay hindi marunong, number one, magbasa, magsulat, at maintindihan ang kanilang mga binabasa. Also, meron po yung qualifier na dapat marunong silang magkaroon ng inferences, no, sa kanilang mga binasa. So this is a very alarming number. Almost 19 million of Filipinos are functionally illiterate. So ito naman kami sa Philippine Business for Education, matagal na po naming sinasabi na merong education crisis ang Pilipinas. At ito ay patunay lamang, no, na nasa crisis talaga ang ating education system at kailangang ma-actionan ito ng agaran.
Okay, Hannibal, tinatanong ko yung definition ng functional literacy because back in 2019, iba yung basehan. Kaya mataas yung literacy rate in the country. Back in 2019, it was at 93.1%, equivalent to around 79 million Filipinos. What changed when it comes to what the PSA was measuring?
Correct, no? Number one, ang unang nagbago sa updated na definition ng functional literacy is sa previous definition kasi automatic na kapag ikaw ay gumraduate ng high school, you are considered as functional literate. Pero sa bagong definition na ginamit ngayon sa 2024 FLEMS, hindi na yun po automatic. Technically, hindi ibig sabihin na kung ikaw ay senior high school or high school graduate, functional literate ka na agad. Tinest pa din at parte siya ng survey ng PSA, even high school graduates. And true enough, nakita yung totoong estado. We've seen the true numbers actually, na even high school graduates, those who have passed or have graduated our basic education system, almost 19 million are still functionally illiterate.
And at a time when we expect our high school graduates to be actually competent for work, right? With the amendments to our educational system. When you saw this survey, what immediately came to mind? What was the most alarming for you? I mean, coming from your perspective.
Yes. Sa sinabi ko nga, Ms. Gretchen, no, unang-una nung nakita namin itong resulta ng survey, hindi na kami nabigla because as what I've said, the Philippines is facing an education crisis. Matagal na po itong crisis, and this has been parang ito ay actually dulot na ng decades of neglect. At ngayon nakikita natin yung compounding na results nitong education crisis. Kung matatandaan din natin at siguro napakalaking factor din na almost 2 years na nagsara ang ating mga eskwelahan during the COVID pandemic. Also, nakikita din natin na ito ulta na ng makapag-graduate, no? Or napopromote ang mga kabataan, nakakapag-proceed sila sa next level even though hindi nila nako-comply yung standards. In this case, hindi sila mababa ang kanilang comprehension skills, ay nakakapag-proceed sila to the next grade or even so, nakaka-graduate sila. So, nakakabahala ito and this only shows na yung mga piecemeal or band-aid solutions to address the education crisis is not working. So it needs to be a holistic and comprehensive approach to solve the education crisis.
Ibig sabihin, hindi ito dahil lamang sa pandemya. Matagal nang ganito.
Yes. Actually, even before the pandemic, meron na talagang learning gap ang ating mga learners. The statistics just before the pandemic would show na yung mga grade 6 students natin have the level of reading comprehension that of a grade 4. So merong 6 years na learning gap, which was further compounded again by the pandemic, as what I've said. Matagal na nagsara ang ating mga eskwelahan, no? So ina-expect natin na kapag in the next coming surveys, makikita natin kung ano yung nagiging resulta at nagiging epekto compounding na learning crisis sa ating
Pero
bansa.
Hannibal, nakapagtataka, no? Kasi nasa konstitusyon natin to give education the highest prioritization in terms of budget. Saan napupunta yung pera? I mean, if it has been a decades-long problem, is the money going to the wrong things? What has been the focus of previous Congresses?
Well, in terms of education budget, nakikita naman natin na nandoon yung allocation, no, sa education. Number one ang education in terms of budget allocation. Pero kung ikukumpara mo yan sa mga neighboring countries natin at sa international standards, medyo mababa pa din yan. Currently, I think we are running at around less than 5% of education spending. If you are to compare that with our neighboring ASEAN neighbors like Vietnam, or in this case Singapore, they are over and above, I think around 6 or 7%. No? I think in more than education budget allocation, it's really empowering the local government units. If nakikita natin yung FLEMS survey ngayon, naka-disaggregate at down to the provincial level yung data, such that makikita natin kung aling mga provinces ang best performing in terms of literacy, and also alin yung mga provinces na worst performing.
Tama kayo, no? Na-note ko dyan yung Cordillera region. They have the highest functional literacy. What are they doing right?
No, I think that's a very good question to ask our local government leaders and also our national government leaders. Dapat tingnan natin kung ano yung magandang ginagawa ng mga local government units na may mataas na functional literacy. At again, magandang i-replicate yan for those provinces and local government units na mababa ang kanilang functional literacy. If I may just say also, Gretchen, na makikita talaga natin yung obvious na correlation ng poverty incidence at ng functional illiteracy. Kasi going to look at what are the top 10 provinces na mataas ang rate ng kanilang functional illiteracy, those are also the same, halos the same provinces na nasa top 10, top 15 of the highest poverty incidence. So if we are to make a difference, no, if we truly believe that education will make the difference on the lives of our Filipino people, especially to alleviate them from poverty, we need to start with basic and functional literacy.
Okay, so which means that the resources probably should be dedicated to those with high poverty incidence, if that is the correlation that you're seeing here. But if you take a look at those who cannot read or write, the proportion is also highest among those aged 5 to 9. What does this imply?
Well, technically, hindi yan rocket science, no? Sinasabi natin na at the lower grade levels, doon talaga kailangan mag-umpisa yung intervention for literacy. So, for those, let's say, at the kinder level and also at the grade 1 to grade 3 na level, dapat dyan binibuild at the onset yung kanilang skills sa pagbabasa, sa pagsusulat, sa pagbibilang, numeracy, but also on comprehension. So kung nakikita natin na mababa yan, ibig sabihin, kailangan pa ng mas maraming reforma or mas significant na reforma sa ating curriculum para mapagtuunan ng pansin ang pagbibuild ng basic and functional literacy at the lower grade levels. So, mas madali yung learning kasi kapag at the lower grade level, marunong at magaling na silang magbasa, magbilang, at magaling na yung kanilang reading comprehension. So that when they proceed to the higher levels, doon na madidevelop more yung critical thinking skills, yung advanced arithmetic and mathematical computation skills nila. So, again, basic to building blocks ng learning yung literacy and numeracy. So, dapat i-build yan at the onset, doon pa lang sa lower grade levels.
Well, if we cannot solve the whole problem right away, it's good that the information tells us what are the bright points and also what are the pain points that we need to get down to. But what is the PBED planning to do about the data that we're seeing? Ano ba yung mga programa that we're working on to be able to improve literacy?
From our end sa PBED, bilang kami ay isang organisasyon na binubuo ng mga business leaders, we are actually piloting specific programs that target basic literacy and numeracy. If I may just share that around a year ago, we had a very good partnership with Accenture Philippines, the Kiddy Learning Train, yung KLT tutoring program namin, kung saan gumagamit kami ng offline na mga modules para sa mga pre-K K3 learners. So meaning yung mga kinder, grade 1 and grade 2 to grade 3 learners for their remedial classes on literacy and numeracy. So in partnership with the private sector, nakapag-procure kami ng mga tablets para magamit. And we piloted this in Cebu and in Himamaylan City in Negros. Ang nakita namin, napakataas ng impact ng remedial classes na ito. Particularly that we've seen double, almost 200% improvement sa kanilang basic literacy and also sa kanilang numeracy skills. So ito kasi, itong mga ganitong models, successful models, we need to mainstream this, ito yung ina-advocate namin sa PBED na ma-mainstream yung ganitong mga local models, successful models, at ma-empower ang ating mga local government. Kaya kami sa Philippine Business for Education, patuloy ang aming panawagan na pag-aralan kung paano pa mas ma-empower ang mga local government units to make education decisions. Localized po kasi kung makikita natin ulit, localized yung mga problema. Hindi siya pwedeng one size fits approach. So localized problems, dapat it's the LGU who should take the lead. We should empower our local government units, be it giving them more resources, giving them more capacity building activities to address this education crisis. After all, sila yung frontliners natin. Sila yung nandoon. Sila yung nandoon sa eskwelahan, sila yung kaharap ng mga teachers, ng mga learners. So why not empower them to address the education concerns and issues within their locality?
And look at the success stories that are already there, and
Exactly.
the signs of hope that we have for the crisis before us. Maraming salamat for your insights into the Philippine State of Education. We have Hannibal Kamua, Executive Director of the Philippine Business for Education.
Thank you.
Don't go away. More matters to discuss right after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Senator J.V. Ejercito clarified that he was not involved in the recent viral road rage incident between a moto vlogger and a male motorist. While both attended a moto camping event in Coto Mines, Ejercito said he and Yana did not ride together or interact beyond a brief photo opportunity. Ejercito reminded fellow riders to stay calm and respectful, emphasizing the importance of avoiding road confrontations. In the viral video, Yana is seen making an offensive gesture during a traffic altercation, accusing the motorist of swerving without checking his side mirror. The motorist explained that rough road conditions, not carelessness, caused his vehicle's movement. And to provide clarification on the matter, we are now joined on the show by Senator J.V. Ejercito. Good morning, Senator.
Hi, Gretchen. Good morning. Nice to be here in your show. Good morning, everyone.
Senator, nadadawit na naman po kayo dito sa issue na ito. Ano po bang nangyari? Paano na-involve ang pangalan po ninyo? At sa pagkakaintindi ninyo, what exactly happened in the incident?
Well, Gretchen, yun nga, no? I parang lagi na akong nabaviral in a bad way and always misunderstood. First of all, I would not deny that I was part of the motocamp event in Cotomine, Zambales, wherein Yana, the motovlogger rider, was also there. No? But it was a convergence. It was the motocamp event was sanctioned by the Philippine Motorcycle Tourism. As you know, that I'm one of the proponents of this program under the Tourism's Motions Board and Tourism. We promote tourism through motorcycle riding. No? So, because this is a PMT event, I was invited and I went to Cotomines. But, we came from different parts, no? So, I rode with si Coach Kilay, si Larendon Labador, and other riders. So, I only saw Yana probably in the evening during the bonfire and in the morning. Doon nagpa-picture kami. That was it, no? So, what is sad is that I really was not with her during the ride itself. I think yung ride niya, Gretchen, was a side trip the next day na yan. They went to Lake Mapanuepe, also in Zambales. So, yun po. That's why I think most of the riding community, motorcycles or even bicycles, know that I have never abused anybody. No record of being a bully on the road. So we do not condone that action, Gretchen.
But seeing what happened, sino po ba yung nakikita nyong mali? And also kasi sabi po ni Yana, no, dun sa kanyang paliwanag sa comment section, actually hindi, sa video pala, na wala siyang side mirror kasi part siya ng enduro. What are the rules when it comes to endurance races? Wala ba talagang side mirror? Paano po yan pagka may nakasabay ka? What is your assessment over the actual situation?
Yes, Gretchen, because I also ride enduro or itong mga pang motocross bikes. Usually, they don't have side mirrors because when you go on trail, it's dangerous. Sasabit ka sa mga puno, ganon. That's why more often than not, there's no side mirrors. That's why motocross bikes or enduro bikes are not roadworthy, kumbaga hindi yan allowed on public roads, no? So they are allowed on rough roads, private roads, and yung po sa mga trails. So kaya yun yung reason kaya wala pong side mirror. So siguro by assessment, I think it's a simple case of road rage. Sabi ko nga, advice ko kay Yana, no? We're not close. Sabi ko, it won't hurt to apologize or to own up to your mistake. Sabi ko nga, minsan let go na yung mga ganyang situation. No? Na bawa, nagit-git ka or you feel that somebody almost sideswipe you. If nothing happened, because of the heat of probably because of the temperature, marami maitang ulo ngayon. Talagang palagpasin na natin. Yung ibig ko let go na yung netizens naman did not understand some of it na pabayaan na. It's let go, ibig sabihin palagpasin na natin yung mga ganong situation. No? Huwag na tayo makipag-away. So that's what I meant, Gretchen.
Actually, oo nga po, no? Parang talagang mataas ang temperatura noon. Pero bukod doon, na-post pa sa social media, no, nagawang content itong video na ito by Yana herself, which kind of reminded me also of the MMDA incident na pinopost pa yung mga ganyan. Actually, galing pa sa kanila. Meron po ba tayong isinusulong na panukala dito sa Senado? Para somehow to prevent more of these incidents from happening. And also, kita rin yung mukha nung driver sa video, no?
Yeah.
So, in terms of privacy, what are the issues that you're seeing there?
Actually, Gretchen, I was also yung kay Gabriel Go, naging ano rin ako, viral, no? That was, I was also criticized. But gusto ko lang i-clarify, yung ginagawa I was also a mayor, no? And what Gabriel Go is doing is challenging talaga yan. And I recognize him for that effort. Ang akin lang, there are times that what really hurt me, yung pong dalawang matanda that talagang hindi pa pinagbigyan. Sometimes humanity has to come into play. No? And yun lang, siguro in terms of itong mga videos, we have to respect other person's privacy, especially when he doesn't, dapat yung pinapaalam mo kung i-post mo or you're taking the video. Di ba? There is a law on that. So itong kay Yana, I think she made a mistake by posting the video, probably hoping that it will be viral. Nag-viral nga, pero in a negative way. But I think yung privacy of that person that she confronted with was violated kasi yung face niya, lahat, yung identity was seen on video. So we have to, yung mga motovloggers, I'm just siguro reminding that we have to respect other persons' privacy. Kung ipopost natin, we have to let them know that they will be posted, or for taking their videos, you have to let them know. No? I think that yan po yung nasa batas. Once you take a video, a photo of someone you do not know, they have to be advised. So I think Yana aired in that na pinost po niya na hindi naka-blurred, hoping it would be go viral. Nag-viral nga, but in a negative way. But I'm hoping that lessons learned, she is young na siya accept to her mistake, bite the bullet, apologize to the person, and also to the people of Zambales, no, yung provincial government, which has declared her persona non grata.
Ay, totoo pala yun. Okay. Senator, wala na po tayong oras, no, but thank you so much for your time today. We hope na maisulong nga yung anti-road rage bill that has that will possibly impose high penalties on those involved in road rage. Maybe that could be a detriment to those incidents. But in the meantime, maraming salamat for explaining and joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Senator
Thank you also.
J.B. Hercito. And that's it for today's episode of Morning Matters. My name is Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Happy weekend.